Let's give about 5 seconds. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Nick.
Hey.
I'm so excited you're here, and hello to everyone who's listening/watching.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time because you do this stuff all the time, so it's going to be a lot of fun to do it together.
Yeah.
And also have someone on who's like sort of, very experienced with working with the live chat and everything. Seals Apple says hello. Hey, nice to see you.
What's up, Apple?
We're very happy to have everybody here. So I'm going to start out by asking you to introduce yourself a little bit. But before that, I'm going to do my normal awkward thing of saying, please tell me if the audio levels are okay. I had to switch mics, so I'm using a slightly different mic than normal now. I think it's slightly better, but I'm not experienced with it. So tell me if I'm too quiet or Nick is too quiet or whatever. And so, I put a little bit about you in the description, and we're going to talk about your album today mostly, Nick. But do you want to give people a quick intro to you, what you do, who you are, what you like, that kind of thing?
Sure. So my name is Nick Cutroneo. I am a classical guitarist, and I just released my album Emergence in the middle of October. I do the typical freelance, musician thing for the most part. Before, if we think sort of pre-COVID time, I was doing weddings, I did concerts, I played in pits for musicals, pretty much all that kind of stuff, doing the teaching thing. Post-COVID, obviously not a whole lot of gigs going on, not a whole lot of wedding stuff going on. So I've sort of dug into the world of Twitch. I was on Twitch before pandemic in January of 2019, and then in all honesty, having Twitch to be a thing to look forward to has kind of saved my musical sanity, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Something to do. It's everyone thought when the pandemic is like, I'm going to practice like nonstop and like learn all this rep and make a CD. And some of us have done those things, like you making a CD. But at the same time, it's hard if you don't have like a deadline or a project,
It is absolutely true. And I'm definitely a creature of I need a deadline.
Yeah.
I need to be looking forward for something. So, my Twitch streams are actually primarily practice streams, which, we can maybe get into later. But that was a whole journey of self-discovery that I went on in 2018, 2019. And then, I've been able to maintain, inspiration that way. And then being able to I do on Twitch, they call them like song request streams, where people will come in, I have a song list, and people will request stuff.
Cool.
Having to look forward to that every week is really fun.
Yeah, and then there's annoying people like me who come in and ask you to play like really hard rep,
Well, it's no worse than someone coming in and asking me to play the third movement of the Moonlight Sonata.
Right, yeah. That would do it too. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot there to talk about, but I think people also maybe want to hear you play some guitar. But first, quickly, the album that you just released, that this stream is in celebration of, which was last month, right? October 15th was the release date?
October 15th, yep.
Okay, cool. Nice. And what's the concept of this album, if you had to put it in a nutshell?
So, this album actually has a very long history because I started recording it in 2013.
Wow, okay.
And it was finished and edited 2014, 15. But really, it started as a answer to the fact that when I went out and during 2012, 2013, I would go out and do a whole bunch of concerts, and after the concert, people will say, "Oh, do you have an album that I can listen to, that I can buy?" And I'm like, no, I should probably get on that. So that was the initial start of it.
Mm-hmm.
But over the course of getting the album together and getting it going, it sort of turned into sort of my musical mission statement, as it were, or sort of a nice, sort of bow tie on my first decade as a professional performer.
Mm-hmm.
I left college in 2010. It's now 2020, so 10 years has passed. And so I titled it Emergence initially because I thought that was a great title I play Andrew York's Emergence on the album. And so I kind of thought that that's a great title for an album. I didn't want to call it like solo recital or, something weird like that.
Yeah, something that's meaningless.
Right. Something that just sort of is like, it's not a concept. It's not playing someone's repertoire. There's no concept on it. It's just my solo recital.
Yeah.
But then, I feel that over the years, personally for me as a musician, my musical voice has definitely started to emerge, thus the title Emergence. And who I am as a player, who I am as a musical person started to really come through, feeling that I didn't need to do a certain specific thing because I was no longer in school, needing to sort of hit certain requirements or play certain rep because either it needs to check boxes or it was assigned to me or that kind of thing. And so that's what I feel that this album represents is who I am as a player.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I kind of wish, this is something I feel like I repeat myself on this stream every week, so I'm sorry to everyone who's heard me say this before, but I just wish that schools sort of fostered a little bit more that decision to, I don't know, pursue. I guess as a student, you do have to like check certain boxes and learn certain things, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like many guitar programs are in the business of creating individual artists necessarily who emerge with an individual identity, and that's like what's going to set you apart, right, and give you some kind of foothold as a professional, is being able to offer something that the next girl or guy who comes out of the program doesn't necessarily offer, right? And not that it's a competitive thing, but just I just wish that attitude was more prevalent during school, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, I think my experience is slightly different because I spent 7 years at the same school doing my undergrad and graduate degrees.
Right.
So I was with the same teacher. So what was great about that is that I developed a very close mentor relationship with my professor. He was very supportive in his way of trying to get me to be who I am as a player.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in lessons he would talk about how what I bring uniquely to music, and he would cite sort of the fact, like, he knew that I played electric guitar when I was in high school. He knew that I didn't grow up as a classical guitarist when I was a kid and all that stuff. He's like, that gives you a certain outlook, and that's going to be your voice, and that's great, but you have to learn to temper that. That sort of was like the running theme of 7 years. It's like, use all those things to your advantage, but then you also have to learn to sort of balance that with what we need to do to be successful.
Yeah. It's a hard balance.
And in his, in his defense, or sort of where I was as a player, in the early noughts and into the first decade, I was interested in playing like a Bach lute suite. I was interested in playing, Rodrigo. I was interested in doing all that stuff. So I never approached repertoire with a perspective of, I need to do this.
Right.
I always felt that, my voice was heard in terms of what pieces I wanted to play. Quite honestly, when I was an undergrad, the first 2 years, I didn't really know much. And so I didn't really have an opinion in terms of that. So I was just like, okay, this is cool music, or, oh, this is a little bit of a, a drudge a little bit because I just didn't know any better, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just one of those things that I think that because I didn't just have 4 years with him, because I didn't just have to, okay, now I'm going to go off to another teacher, and then I'm going to have that teacher's perspectives. I feel like that in a lot of ways that allowed me to feel more comfortable in finding who I was as a player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know that not everybody has that experience. Not everybody that I went to school with had that experience. I think that I'm a little unique in that way.
It also depends on how a teacher views a student's development. I mean, it was refreshing for me, although I had good experiences with my teachers before, not to knock them, but when I came to the Netherlands and started in Maastricht with Carlo Marchione, he was like, I asked him sort of like, do you have input on like my goals for master's repertoire? And he was like, no, you're a master's student. Like, you play whatever you want, and you should choose something that's specific to what you want to research and what you want to do. And the idea of the program was to build your research into that, like your research project, your thesis, not thesis exactly, but that idea, alongside what you chose to play. And I found that very refreshing. I mean, it was a bit hands off, so I was a bit lost at first trying to choose what I did, but that was actually good for me because it sort of forced me to decide, like, what is it that I want to play and do and say. So that's awesome that's sort of the bedrock of the album. So just to please your legions of fans, what would you like to play for us, Nick?
So the first thing that I'll play is a track off my album. This is Waiting for Dawn, written by Andrew York. It's really interesting because I have stories with almost every single piece on this album, which is really nice to be able to say, right? It's not just repertoire, but there's some kind of connection behind it. So I remember initially learning this piece. I want to say it was like the month before my wedding.
Nice.
My wife and I got married in September of 2011, and on the Northeast during 2011, there were these crazy hurricanes that were hitting.
Nice.
All of a sudden. And so my wife was down in New Jersey preparing for the wedding. So I was all alone in the house with the cats, sort of just like, hanging out. And we lost power. And, I'm learning this piece pretty much when only there is, daylight outside. And the moment that daylight would, sunlight would go away, I couldn't do anything. And I pretty much just went to sleep the moment that the sun set and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I kind of vividly remember sitting in the living room, sitting, just on the couch. And the couch was low enough where I didn't need a guitar support or a footstool, which was awesome. And I'm just sitting there with the music out on the coffee table, just learning this piece. And that's kind of the imagery whenever I think of this piece for me. Sort of that peaceful, sorry for the motorcycle. That good. Peaceful, just sort of relaxed, living room experience, sort of at dusk or at dawn, very low light, just learning this piece. So that's kind of the image whenever I play this piece. That's kind of what I think of.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the other thing is that a friend of mine, we both love Andrew York's music, and we often had a competition during that time period. Who could find the prettiest Andrew York piece?
Yeah.
And so for a while, this was it. And then my friend learned by candlelight. And then for a while, that was it. And so we have this never-ending just competition of who can find the prettiest melody of Andy's.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sergio Hernandez put a surprise face. Hey, Sergio. Nice to see you. And Deborah Eastring says, oh, I remember the hurricane year. Yeah, I've never lived in a place with hurricanes, thankfully.
Well, neither do I.
Okay.
We typically don't get hurricanes in the Northeast on the United States East Coast. But it was crazy. That was I think that was Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah.
That was 2012. That was the next year.
Crazy.
But it was insane. We lost power for like 7 or 8 days.
Oh man.
It was awful.
That's nuts.
So,
crazy. Yeah. Just for everyone listening, now that some people are commenting, please think of questions for Nick or for I, and hit us up. Tell us what you want to hear. You can request a song. Maybe he'll play something you request. Maybe. We'll see. Or if it gets really crazy, maybe I'll play because I never played on the stream before. Okay.
Cool.
Well, let's hear this Andrew York piece. I'm going to shut off my video and mic so that I'm not interrupting. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Very nice. Seal's apple is clapping. Yes, that was gorgeous. Nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Very beautiful melody and cool with all those little slurs and stuff.
Yeah, it's very Andy-esque,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I love his music. It's wonderful music.
It's good stuff, yeah. And also he brings something unique to the guitar community, in the way he composes, which I appreciate a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Deborah Eastring says, I'd like to request Capriccio Diabolico and hear the story behind that. Well, as a matter of fact, Deborah, we were about to talk about that. Yeah. That's one of the things we talking about, because I think our first or second conversation on Facebook, you told me what was on the CD, and then I was like, oh, did you include the extra, whole page that Segovia cut out, right? So, I mean, I did want to talk about the repertoire in general, but maybe now that that's been brought up, what's the story behind your particular version of the Tedesco Capriccio Diabolico?
Yeah, so so I forget what led me to getting this edition, other than I think that I just I saw on, I think it was Strings by Mail or something, where I saw the Tedesco and I saw Segovia's edition, and I'm like, oh, here's a version of it with the Tarantella. Well, I might as well get that because I get two pieces for one. That's kind of how I operate sometimes, especially as a college student where you're maybe trying to decide what to do with some of your money.
Also, buying music by Tedesco, when he's such an amazing composer, it's like, why wouldn't you want two instead of one?
Absolutely.
So
and during my time at the Hart School, which is where I went to college, I played every single one of his chamber pieces, and
those are great.
They're amazing.
Did you play the quintet with an actual quartet?
I did.
Nice.
Yes.
Me too.
So I did the flute and guitar piece as an undergrad my senior year.
That one's great.
And then I did the Ecologues, the trio with flute, and I think it's English horn.
I've never even heard of that. Cool.
Oh, it's a great piece. And then I did the piano duo, and then I did the quintet all during my master's.
Nice. Yeah.
And so great music. And so yeah, why not have two of his works rather than just one? Mm-hmm. And then I get it, and I look at it, I'm like, then I start reading through it. There's a whole 15 pages in the beginning of this edition that sort of talks about the story of this piece and everything. And it's not the Segovia edition. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. But when I decided to work on it, the thing about Segovia's changes in the music is that I think I know a lot of people kind of have now been fighting back against sort of some of his changes, mm-hmm. right? He's a little heavy-handed at times.
Yeah.
And, your opinion, everyone's opinion, I think, is equally as valid in terms of what you maybe want or aesthetically what you enjoy.
What you like or don't like, yeah.
Right. But I kind of feel like, there are certain things that he does where it, I think, betters what the composer's intentions are. Not necessarily, you understand, right?
Yeah, I think it's a bit heavy-handed, like you said, but it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like a brutal but necessary razor sometimes. It just slices through,
exactly. Yeah, that's a great analogy for that. Yeah. It's like, Tedesco never played the piano, so he's gonna write he never played the guitar. He played the piano.
Yeah.
So all these pieces are written at the piano, and so there are things that work really, really well if it was a piece that was gonna be played on the piano, and there are things that could work, but maybe you lose something that I think maybe Tedesco is going after, right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of his changes, I think where things weren't cumbersome and awkward, I kept the original notes the way that Tedesco wrote them in the piece. Mm-hmm. I tried to keep it sectionally based, so if that decision was made in a given section, then everything in that section mm-hmm. was based that way. But then there are things like in mid 3 or 4 of the piece, there are these right, that whole entire thing. Mm-hmm. And then Segovia, it's all these moving triads all over the neck,
which is hell on the guitar. Yeah,
right. And that's like a common thing that Tedesco does, is these fast moving triads. That's a staple of his
sometimes with
style.
Other things above and below.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so you have to thin that texture out. You have to do something, right?
Yeah.
And so I think his solution there works really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but where I couldn't ultimately get behind a Segovia decision, which was, I'm just going to structurally change the piece of music.
Yeah.
I'm going to take out a full section of this piece. And, you know, in Segovia's defense and in my defense, like, I performed it for a year without the coda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason for that is there's no examples of someone playing it with the coda. There are no recordings. And that puts you in a really interesting spot where I'm going to be the recording that quote unquote sets the precedence of how this section should or should not be played,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I decided that I'm going to prepare this piece for the recording, I'm like, well, I'm keeping these I'm keeping original parts of the, you know, whether they're original harmonizations or accompaniment figures. I'm keeping a lot of that stuff. So why not take a stab at this coda? Why not try and understand it and treat it as I would if I was premiering a new piece, right? When we premiere a piece, we don't know what it's going to sound like. We don't, because no one has played it before. There's no precedent. So that was kind of that was the motivation to get me not to be scared to record it that way.
Yeah.
If that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I think like you should treat, well, I think any Tedesco piece you play, actually, whether it's a Segovia edition or Gilardino or what, you should treat it as if you are working with Tedesco as the guitarist receiving the music and having to make it fit the guitar.
Right.
Like I had this experience with the Caprichos de Goya. Some of them, I've played 4 of them, I think, in my masters. And some of them, like the 18th, there's obviously stuff you have to change and cut, but it's like you said, always a question of like, how do I find the way to make this texture work on the guitar?
Absolutely.
And especially articulation. Like I would rather keep the articulation and change notes, change octaves, cut some notes, than play the notes, all the notes that are there, but without the articulation that Tedesco indicated, right?
Right.
Just personally, but also like, so I think that's good in general, but especially with something like where the coda where you're keeping it, you have to pretend you're like the person getting the manuscript and being like, how do I actually make this work? And I don't know how many composers you've worked with, but I did a research project in my master's on that process of how you collaborate with a composer who's not a guitarist. And that was like, it's hard, man. I can kind of understand why Segovia sometimes did what he did. He was a busy guy. He was on tour like constantly, receiving more music than he could actually, more music at his desk than he could actually like play, you know? So while he was a bit like, it seems to me in retrospect, I didn't know, obviously, you know, don't know that much, but it seems like he was a bit quick to just make a decision editorially and cut things. But at the same time, he's having to make those decisions like really fast and really efficiently, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. And he has to maybe feel confident in being able to play that piece. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he might not, probably, I'm sure during, especially, you know, he was touring all throughout his life, but I'm sure during those times when, you know, he's learning all of this new rep and everything, that was sort of his call to arms, for lack of a better word. You know, he's got to make decisions. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere with the piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? So I guess the story behind structurally that coda, and I by no means claim to be an expert on it, but like the way that coda comes in, it takes a very small theme, or motive rather, from the initial theme that comes up throughout the piece. This dotted 8th note, 16th note, and then triplet motive that sort of goes throughout the piece. At the end of this melody, it's a development of that motive. And I guess in Italian opera, there is a part of the opera where like that kind of thing happens. I remember posting a video of it, and someone on, like, I mean, the internet is full of people who like to tell you things.
Yeah. Even when you don't ask.
Yeah. But it was one of those things where, you know, they were explaining how it fits structurally in the piece, and I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. You know, I can kind of get behind that. But it completely it changes how the piece ends completely.
Yeah.
You know, the arrival at sort of the last page of the piece is completely different. You know, it feels different. and so that's a whole new thing that happens, and it was really interesting and engaging to sort of do that.
Yeah. Deborah Eastring says, eventually you learn confidence in your knee-jerk edits, and that becomes your style, or so I think. And Seals Apple says, yeah, that makes sense, Deb. I think that's true to an extent. I think also you get better at trying to understand what a composer is aiming for on the instrument, especially if it's one of their first times writing for the instrument. Mm-hmm. And I would just encourage people who are doing that kind of work to like cultivate that relationship with the composer, where you can go to them and say, it seems to me like you're trying to get this across. Is that what you're trying to do? And if they say yes, and they're willing to take feedback, you can say, here's a really effective way to do it on the guitar. And what do you think of this option or this option A or B, and play both for them. And, that will push not only you as a player, but also them as a composer, and also will make the piece better in the end when it hits the stage. Because
absolutely,
you're going to you're going to get there and be able to communicate what they meant. And you might not even understand it. The other problem is notation is a pretty blunt instrument. Like I've had so many composers I've worked with who, well, not so many, but the ones I have worked with who've been like trying to communicate something in a way that would make sense to another instrumentalist, but to a guitarist didn't make sense for some reason, just because notation, we have different conventions, right? So
yeah,
it's hard. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember like I had a piece written for me, I guess 2 years ago, by a good friend of mine. And so what was really nice is that open relationship and dialogue of this is a working relationship, not just here's the piece, now go and play it.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that kind of relationship, really. It's not like...
I think that, I enjoy working with composers where they want that back and forth. They want they want to understand what guitarists need, because most composers, when you approach a non-guitarist composer, they are initially really intimidated by the instrument.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And so I think that relationship then also helps them not feel as intimidated.
Yeah, and this is something, I don't know if you know Steve Cowan, but it's something he said to me was like, make sure that when you go into it, it's like you're trying to give the composer the feeling that they're free to try whatever they want on the guitar. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, look, we can work out later how that's actually going to work. But I think that's a good approach. You don't want the composer to feel sort of restricted going into it. Like the guitar can only do this and this and this. Because very often their preconceptions about what it can or can't do might be just totally off base because it's a weird instrument. Yeah. So...
every composer, even a guitarist composer, I say, write what you want. We'll figure it out while I learn it. That's sort of my credo, is just write what you hear, write what you want to write. And then from there, we'll work on if there are issues.
Yeah, for sure. So. Awesome. I was going to ask, do you want to, maybe I can pull up an example of the normal ending and then your recording. What do you think of that, to show people the difference?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you suggest for a foil of the regular recording? Do you have a recording you particularly like? Didn't Emueno Ele Buono record this?
There was I forget who the GFA artist that recorded it, that I listened to a lot. Dmitry, Russian guitarist.
I know who you're talking about.
Ilyav? I'm butchering the name.
Ivanov, right?
Ivanov.
No, that's not him. That's a pianist. Wait, 1 second.
Okay. Anybody who sees me on Twitch will know that I am bad at saying things.
I'm just going to search Capriccio Dmitry Diabolico.
It was on his Naxos CD, I believe.
Yeah. Diabolico. Oh my goodness, the name. I'm totally blanking on the name too. Can someone remind us who we're thinking of?
I'm going to...
Capriccio. Google will tell me.
Here we go.
What is it?
I am going to butcher it, so I'm going to put it in the Twitch chat.
Okay, sounds good.
I am going to...
Ilarionov.
There you go.
Yes, Dimitri. Oh, and the reason is I was spelling Dimitri wrong without the I after the D. I was just doing DM. Oops. Okay. There we go. Ilarionov, yeah. Okay, so what point should we listen to here? Let's see. Let me make sure I've shared my audio with you. Yeah. Okay.
I haven't listened to it in forever.
2003. This is a while ago. Okay, we're gonna
Wow.
listen to the ending of this. Is this a good spot?
Go maybe like 30 seconds past that. Wait.
So this is the return to the main theme, the recap,
This
right?
is the main theme, so it's right after this.
So dun da 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 da. Wow, it's a pretty bright sound. Nice.
I haven't listened to this recording in forever.
Oh, I just realized if we listen to the whole thing through Nexus, we'll probably try and take down the stream. Let's listen to a tiny bit more from this. Oh yeah, it goes into this thing.
Yeah. So you want to back up a little bit to hear the transition.
Let's hear the transition. I'll go back a little bit here. Before this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right here is perfect.
Okay, that was it, right? Yeah.
That was the transition. And so right as he got into those octaves, there's 24 measures that Segovia just cut.
Okay. The da 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 dee dum. This thing, yeah. Cool. Okay, now let's hear your version, which will not get my video deleted because it's not under a label like Nexus.
It is not.
Although
now I'm all intimidated because we just listened to a GFA winner and now it's
dude, whatever. It's fine. Winning the GFA doesn't necessarily mean you're a,
This is true.
better artist or whatever. Okay. Let's it's also 11 minutes. I just want to point out that version was 9 minutes something. This is 11 minutes 30 seconds because of the extra amount of music. That's awesome. Okay. 10 minutes in? Something like this?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Here it comes. So different voicings.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a Tedesco chord.
Yeah. It changes how this whole entire section progresses. And then this is the same.
Yeah. Da, 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 dee, da, 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 dee,
Yep.
da, 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 dee.
And I kept the quote that Segovia put in, like the little,
Ah,
thing.
cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Those
Just,
chords are so metal. I
Yes.
I kind of like, why wouldn't you want to play those chords? Even if you just modified the rest up to there and then just like played those chords. I don't know.
I remember, so during the recording of that, I played so loud that the engineer thought I hit the microphone. With everyone. And you could hear the wind hit the mic.
He must have had to use some like major limiting or compression.
We had to. I remember him saying, "Hey, did you hit the microphone? These are really expensive. Don't hit them." I'm like, "No, I didn't hit them." I'm like, and so I think I had to back off because I was playing so loud, and I don't know what he did, but he had to do something.
Yeah,
I remember that vividly.
I keep saying this on the stream and it hasn't come out yet. I'm making a recording of this Sonata Nathan Bredesen wrote me, which is like 21 minutes long. But the ending is this movement of all these like crazy chords and resciatos and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just learning about audio. I mean, I'm getting better. The videos I'm putting out are getting better all the time. But at the same time, like it's hard to like, mic distance is hard in the first place. Then when you have something like a resciato on a percussive instrument like guitar or like a big chord with your thumb like you're doing there, it's hard to like not, and you have to use like a limiter or a compression, but then of course that can alter the sound. It's just it's a whole rabbit hole of trying to
I think I even like guitar picked it.
Yeah,
That.
with the index nail.
Back of the index fingernail.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to do it.
But
Yeah.
it completely changes the whole concept of the ending,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the things that I was dealing with is that, I mean, if you look at the actual, sort of after the coda, the ending, it's grandioso y sostenuto, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be fast,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're going right, that's sort of the speed that I'm at. I'm not really pushing it much.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's cut time, but it's cut time with dotted quarter notes, or excuse me, with quarter note triplets. Ba 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 bum bum beep. Like, it's like we're not doing, or bum bum beep bum bum ba ba beep bum bum beep. It's way slower than what people do, because of the fact that this is developing from a different place. It's evolving. That ending evolves differently because you're not cutting out those measures. There's a whole other development. There are interesting keys. We start in D minor. We go to like E flat. We go to A, which brings us back to D.
The flat 2 is a nice Tedesco thing that he does, which is so tasty. Yeah, I think this is also just a problem with guitar players generally, to be honest, and I include myself in this, is that we don't really follow rhythm and tempo that well.
Oh, anybody on my stream knows my feelings of rhythm.
Yeah.
And how important it is.
Yeah. Especially in music like Tedesco's, which is already so kind of exotic harmonically and sort of like texturally, that if you play too much with rubato, you're into kind of dangerous territory, I think.
Yeah.
That being said, it's music that really sort of begs for some vibrato or sort of rubato. So that's.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the music sort of will tell you where it's necessary and not.
Yeah, true.
And his melodies are just so captivating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, Tedesco really knew how to write a melody and how to pick a good chord, which is like everything you want, honestly.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was shocked learning the Caprichos de Goya also, how many sections was like, oh, this rhythm is just not what I've been hearing on recordings,
Yeah.
So that being said, it's also like music that's really freaking hard. So like sometimes I found myself fudging rhythm a tiny bit just because, like, man, trying to hit things on time.
Right.
When you have such gnarly chords and stuff, it's brutal.
No joke.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's talk more about the album after I subject you to our listening test game.
Ooh, all right.
Are you ready?
I am terrified.
Terrified. So for the listeners, just so you know, we're going to play a little repertoire listening test, and Nick is not allowed to look at the chat. However, he can ask for help on one piece. So put your guesses in the chat every time I play something, just in case he's going to use his lifeline for that one. We're going to do 9 pieces of music. You're going to hear a clip, and you're going to try and guess composer, performer, and piece, or one of those 3. So there's a possible 3 points per. And if you can mention like the arranger for things like that, then I'll give you half a point, that kind of thing. So if it's a piece where it's being arranged. And I've done 3 categories, Nick. I've done beginner, intermediate, and advanced, but this is completely arbitrary and maybe totally pointless when it comes to what you know. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. I'm just going to go to my playlist here. All right. Piece number 1. And I'll give you hints. So if you're not sure, you can like make guesses, and I'm not going to if you guess the composer wrong, you still can guess a few more times. So cool. Okay, number 1.
The beginner round?
Yeah, I thought this is from a well-known set of pieces, but maybe not one of the most so well-known pieces. I can give you a hint though, since I did choose something a little bit tricky for the beginner round. What's a good hint that won't totally give it away? This is a South American composer who was not himself a guitarist, at least not a professional guitarist. and is like one of the most well-known composers for our instrument from the 20th century.
Okay.
He wrote 2 sets of pieces that we play. As far as I know, those are the only and a concerto.
So that's Villalobos, if I'm thinking of that.
Correct.
But,
yes.
So I don't even know what it's from.
Can you guess which set of pieces it's from? Is it from the Preludes or the Etudes?
It's got okay. All right, it's an etude. It's like 8. Play it again.
Okay, I'm gonna play some more of it. Yeah, you. I'll give you a few clips from each piece, obviously. Also, here we go.
This is an etude 10.
Yeah.
The
Very
moment
good.
I don't know why I wasn't even when I think Villalobos and I think like the etudes, I don't think etude 10.
Yeah, I know it's a
Yeah.
weird it's a weird choice, I know, but I thought
it's a great choice.
I thought if I chose like Etude 7, it would be like too easy.
Etude, I mean,
you know?
geez, yeah.
Or like 1 or something.
Right.
And who's the player? Who do you think? Do you need a hint?
Is it Fabio Zanon?
No, not Fabio Zanon. This is a player from Uruguay.
Oh, I don't know. I'm blanking on that.
Alvaro Pieri.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, he has a
I
good
don't think
recording.
I have his recording,
It's a good one.
so I'll have to check that out.
So 2 out of 3, not bad. Nice job.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't sound Villalobos.
Yeah, I know.
That's why.
That opening
I'm like-
is a weird one.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
That's super cool. Oh God! All right, hold on. Oh,
Do you want to hear more?
Yeah. It's not the Barclay Sonatina, is it?
It is.
It's the third movement.
Yes, exactly. Half a point
Is it-
extra for the movement.
Is it Bream?
It is Bream. Oh my goodness! Wow, on fire. Yeah, Barclay.
It's only down. It's downhill from now. From here on in, it's downhill.
Don't talk yourself down. Okay, so 3.5 out of 3.
Ooh.
Very nice. Okay, next beginner one. This one's a lot easier. So, although now if you don't get it, it's going to be funny. But
I told you, all downhill. I'm blanking, but I know the piece.
of course you know the piece. You know the melody, I'm sure. Any idea on the composer? Nationality?
It's probably Spanish composer.
No, it's not Spanish.
No. Oh,
It's French composer.
French composer.
Seal's Apple hasn't.
Okay, I am completely blanking.
It's Eric Satie.
Oh, okay.
And what's the piece? You know?
Oh my goodness.
Someone's in trouble.
Ambulance. That's not the kind of trouble that I want to see out my window.
Okay. Oh, that's not good.
No.
Eric Satie.
It's one of the G's. It's one of the pieces with the G's.
Yes. Do you know? Can you just like try to sound the word out? You know?
Oh God. I'm something or other. I'm again awful at this kind of stuff.
It's one of the Gnossiens.
Okay.
Number 1.
Yeah.
And the player is also French, and the arranger is French. Can you guess who would arrange French piano music?
I would have no idea.
And is like a household name for a classical guitarist.
Household name.
Passed away.
Is it Dion's?
It's Dien's, yeah.
Is he the one who's playing it?
No, he's the one who arranged it. The player is a French GFA winner. That narrows it down, right?
Croy?
Mm-mm.
Judical? No.
No.
All right.
2 more guesses. French GFA winners. There's so many of them that this is like not even that.
Oh, there is. Holy jeez. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Oh God.
That's why I always like saying when it's one of these players that it's a French GFA winner, because it like doesn't narrow it down at all.
There's so many of them, and I am like blanking on all of them.
You can think of 2 more to guess. Come on. His name starts with the same letter, both first and last name.
I am sucking wind at this.
It's all good. It's Jeremy Jouvet.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, you got 3.5 on the last one, so it's okay. So in the beginner category, you've got 5.5 out of 9. Not bad.
Hey.
Pretty good.
There we
Okay,
go.
intermediate.
Marginally halfway.
Marginally halfway. I mean, this is like over 50% is good in this test because, like, you know, in school when you have a listening test, they give you like the list ahead of time. Whereas
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
here it's like the entire guitar catalog, just like you have to know it. You know.
It's like, did you listen to the whole guitar catalog this past week?
Yeah. Like, did you listen to it and remember who played what? Okay.
And know what pieces on every album. Ever.
Exactly. Okay. Next one.
Okay. This is Granados.
It's not Granados.
Wait, no, it's not. No.
But you're on the right track.
Yeah. No, it's Albanus.
Albinus, yes.
Yeah.
One of the Spanish pianists.
Yeah.
It's Albinus, yeah. And do you know the piece?
No.
It's Cuba.
Oh. I was gonna say it was Cadiz, and I'm like, it's not Cadiz.
It's not Cadiz, no. It's
Not at all.
Cuba or Capricho.
Yeah.
Doesn't Evan Taucher play this? I could be wrong. Okay, but who do you think the player is? Can you guess from that sweet, sweet tone?
Is it Russell?
It is David Russell. Very good. Nice. Those some expert ears, Nick. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
2 out of 3. Very good. Okay, next one.
Right. It is a lute. Or,
Oh, also Seals Apple says no. He plays another piece. Which is the piece he plays?
It's like a
he
Pavan.
plays Pavan. Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Any idea what this piece was?
I know it's obviously lute. It's Dowland.
Yes.
I forget which Dowland piece it is.
It's a fancy with a special name. A fancy with a fancy name. Depressing fancy name.
Oh, depressing fancy name.
Well, I guess it depends on how you define depressing, but. Seals Apple has it. Nice.
No.
It's Forlorn Hope Fancy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is a very sad title.
Yes, I would say so. And any idea who the lutenist is? Do you want to hear some more?
Is it Nigel North?
Not Nigel North, but you get another guess.
Who's the other lutenist?
Who's the other lutenist? Yeah, there's only 2 of them. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well,
there's 2 of them that we all know. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would it be the other guy?
Yes, I think it is. It is, but you have to.
I don't know his. Oh my God, what's his name? Something with an H, right?
No, actually,
no?
it starts with a P. Biblical
With a P?
name.
Oh, I'm now completely thrown off.
It's Paul Odette.
Paul Odette. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking last name, so I'm like, what last
So
name?
you're doing great on the composers, just the names. It's like you know who it is, but the names is the problem. Okay. 1 out of 3 on that one. Sorry, Nick. Okay.
It's all right.
I have a feeling you'll do well on this one. This one shouldn't be too hard for you.
That's Tedesco Tarantella.
Tedesco Tarantella. Yeah, we already mentioned it in the stream, so I didn't plan it that way. But and do you want to hear more to hear the player?
Yeah, sure. Oh my God, is it one of the guys from the solo duo?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Nobody has dynamics and articulations that nice.
Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name.
Italian.
Yeah.
Very Italian name.
Last name begins with an L.
First name begins with an L, actually.
First name begins with an L.
Last
So
name
that's
has an
an-
L in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, what's his name? Not Lorenzo, is it?
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo. Okay.
Michele. I'll give it to you. Lorenzo
Okay.
Michele. Yeah.
Okay.
You had Lorenzo, so.
See, so I guess the way that I catalog my music on my computer, because I still have like the actual recordings, it's last name first and then first name. So I'm always seeing his name as Michele Lorenzo.
Okay. I see. That's fair. Okay, well, you did better in the intermediate category. 6 out of 9. Very good. Nice.
0.5 difference.
You said it would get worse from there, but you're wrong. It's getting better, actually. Okay. Next one.
Awesome. I've never even heard of this.
That's why it's in the advanced category.
Ah, got it.
But I can play some more of it, and you can try to guess the composer at least.
Sure.
Any idea on the composer?
No.
Composer from the Balkans.
From the Balkans. I'm horrible at geography too.
This composer has written a set of polyrhythmic etudes.
Okay. Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich, correct. Yes. And Seal's Apple also guessed Bogdanovich. I'm guessing you don't know the piece, so I'll just tell you.
No.
It's called... I don't even have it memorized. Hymn to the Muse, Hymn to Nemesis.
Is this Antigone's recording?
It's Antigone, yes.
I should know that. She's going to ream me for that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I chose it, because I looked you up and I found that you studied with her, so I'm like...
Oh, my God. I swear, Antigone, I listen to your recording.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Yes, I just... I always like to look people up and before the show and then check who they study with to put them on the listening test to see if they recognize their own teachers, which I realize is really mean because if they don't recognize it, it's like, horrifying. But anyhow.
I'll say this. It was a very familiar sound.
Yeah.
Like I'm listening. I'm like, wow, the articulation is really on point with this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so.
To be fair, as soon as I said what the piece was, you're like, it's Antigone, so you knew.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that piece was written for her, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I know anybody else who plays that piece.
Yeah, that's fair. So you did actually know the piece, just not off the top of your head. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, 2 out of 3 for that. That's pretty good. Okay, next one. What am I looking for here? Here we go.
Does it count if I like it?
That helps. I played this piece actually.
Okay.
But this isn't me playing. This is another Brazilian composer.
Another Brazilian composer.
Contemporary, obviously, from the style.
I got nothing on that.
Teaching in the U.S.
So Assad? No.
Sergio Assad, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know much of his music other than like
Aquarelle,
and then the
Farewell.
Yeah, that, and then what's the fantasy thingy, the 10-minute thing. That's
Fantasia Carioca.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, that thing. Yes, Sergio Assad. The piece is Suite Brasileira number 3, Caboclinos.
Okay.
That movement. The one written for and played by, in this recording,
Vito?
Toma Villotto. Yeah, Toma Villotto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that piece is a monster. I played it like 2.5, 3 years ago.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like one of those pieces. I played it on some concerts, and like it's one of those pieces where like when you pull it off, it sounds like this easy, fun thing.
Yeah, that's a lot of Sergio's music. Is like you listen to, it's like, oh, look at that. It sounds
nice.
really cool.
And then when you
look at
play
the
it, you're
music,
like dying.
You're having a heart attack on stage.
Yeah, exactly. Your right hand is like, I don't know what like reality is. I have to go into some kind of like quantum state to like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Okay. Well, you got 2 out of 3 there. You're doing great in the advanced category, man.
Hey.
Okay, the last one's a bit of a doozy, so we'll see
All right.
how it goes for you. Any idea?
No idea. But you said this is the last one, right?
Yeah. Oh, you can ask
Okay,
the
so
audience for help.
I'll ask the audience then.
Uh,
Is it before Frank Martin?
Frank Martin? No, it's not Frank Martin, but this is actually, it's actually on the same seat as the Frank Martin. Oh, Shikaku has it. Hey 2. Nice. Jacques Hey2, Canadian composer, actually. Represent.
There you go. It's okay, Apple.
You know,
I also did not know it.
you know, Jérôme Ducharme, GFA winner from 2006?
Yes.
Something like that. He played it in the GFA when he won, but he's Canadian, so that's probably why.
Okay.
Yes, Jacques Hey2, and the piece, it's the ballade from this suite that he played.
Okay.
I also played this ballade. It's all octatonic, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's very cool.
That's why it has that kind of like, you know, sort of creepy witch's brew kind of quality.
Yeah.
You know, it's very like, and the cool thing is in this piece, actually, sorry, I'll just indulge everyone for a second. In this piece, you know how the octatonic scale is like one way, and then if you shift it by one note, it's like the opposite notes. In the middle of the piece, it shifts at this like amazing climax. I'm just gonna play it.
Oh, very cool.
So like in the middle of the piece, the whole tonality shifts, but it's still octatonic. Wait. Yeah, so here's the build up and climax, and then you'll hear the shift on the high chords. Dun dun dee da 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 dee. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
Really cool piece. The player is also Canadian. I don't know if you know. You probably don't know who this is. It's Nathan Bredesen. Okay. Yeah.
I don't believe I know him.
Okay, he studied with Renee in Milwaukee. But he has a really good recording of this. Okay, awesome. So 0-3. Okay, so actually 1 out of 3 because someone got the Hey 2 for you. Nice. Shikaku got it. Okay, so in advance you got 5 out of 9 also. You're over 50% in every category.
There we go.
Nice work.
Look at that.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, and he says I play that piece too. Shikaku 9. Nice.
That's awesome.
It's a great piece.
Yeah. Very cool.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can maybe dive a little bit more into the album, but the one other question I wanted to ask about the album was why you chose this track listing you did, because there's a lot of diversity on it, like Soar, Bach, Tedesco, and York.
So again, the repertoire sort of is really so the Soar came about because after my my graduate recital, the Soar was the first piece that I started working on afterwards. Okay. And it was really interesting because I was still in grad school. I still had like 3 or 4 months left. And he's like, all right, well, pick a piece and, work on it and show me, that kind of thing. Very relaxed, chill end of my my master's. And so I chose this piece. I had always liked it. I remember hearing it when I was an undergrad. Another student had played it. It always interested me as a piece of music. And my teacher was like, it's really weird that you chose this Soar sonata out of, like the grand solo and things like that. I'm like, well, I like it. He's like, yeah, it's not a piece that I would like have recommended that you played in terms of you as a player. But he's like, you'll learn a lot from it. I'm like, all right, cool. But it's just a piece that always captivated me. Like, I just enjoyed it. I think there's an interesting elegance to the single movement sonata, that Soar writes. So the Bach that came about. So on my album, the Bach is my own transcription. I've in all honesty, I've never been a fan of the cello suite arrangements for the guitar. It just, to me, there's something amazing when you hear it on cello, that when you hear it on the guitar, it leaves you wanting something. And to me, the thing that I miss is the tonal palette of the cello, the thickness, the richness that the notes provide, right? In D major, we're up on the high strings, and it's out of the cello. It's at the higher end of the cello register, maybe even out of the cello register at certain points, and it just always, it was never due to the playing of the pieces, just really due to how it sounded. It never, when I would then play it, I was always left feeling meh about it, right? So I remember in I forget when it was, but I heard Andrew York play the third cello suite in cello tuning, and that's on one of his. I think it's on one of his albums. He does the whole suite, and I remember leaving, having heard that, feeling like this sounds really cool. It's Andy sort of does this hybrid cello tuning where you've got a low C and a low G, and then the rest of the guitar is normal. And I just remember listening to it, really being just captivated by the sound, and making me want to explore the cello suites, but in a register that more closely resembles where it would be on the cello, and then bring out the things that make the guitar unique. So what we can do as guitarists is, because we can sustain chords and things, we can play a little bit more independent voices than, say, the cello and things like that. You can realize some of the implied counterpoint. You can realize some of the actual voicing that Bach wrote, but is all as a single line melody, because that's what the cello sort of does for the most part. I chose not to put it in G because by the time that I started transcribing the piece and looking for the lower register, I had already played a piece where I needed the E to be a low C to grab certain notes, and I hated the way that the low C sounds on the guitar when you tune a 6-string down to C.
Yeah.
Just like, it takes like 2 seconds for it to like actually sound like a C. It's
Yeah.
just, you give any kind of push into that string and it just is like circling around the pitch for a few, and then finally it decides that it's going to play the note.
Yeah, I've recently been learning some periphery riffs for fun, and they play in drop C. And the Telecaster I'm borrowing from someone right now, because my only electric guitar is stuck in Canada, and the Telecaster I'm borrowing right now, when I tune it down to drop C, it's like that's the problem.
Yep.
But
it's just a super floppy string.
Yeah, at least when you have like heavy distortion on it and you're just trying to chug away, it kind of adds to it this like weird like harmonic wandering, But I feel like on a classical guitar, that's not quite the same effect you're going for. So
no, it's not at all.
You're not trying to gent, so it's kind of
Yeah, exactly. And so I happened to stumble upon a version of just the prelude in A major, and I played through it. I'm like, this is really cool. The arrangement was awful because it changed register of things really awkwardly.
Okay.
But I'm like, let's see. So I made, I sort of made my own version of the prelude, and I decided they had the low 6 string in E, so I dropped it down to C to get the open 5th in the lower register. So you have D and A. And then I did my transcription, and I enjoyed playing the prelude, and I said, all right, let me now just try the whole suite and see what happens. And with the wonders of something like, Sibelius, all I did was I entered in the cello and then did clef and transposition to A.
That's
so I
handy.
just entered it and made it really easy. Just put it in there, and I'm playing through it. I'm like, this is working really, really well. Where there are moments of added voices throughout the whole suite, just to sort of beef up some things, just to sort of add a little bit of support. There's one moment in the Allemande where I add like a contrary motion bass line to the melody, which I did just because I liked the sound of it. We'll be honest there. It's
but sometimes sorry, really quickly, Metal X Music says, I love the album, Nick, and I love drop C and drop C sharp. They are great tunings. We're not disputing that. I mean,
absolutely.
On an electric guitar, you can get an extended scale length and different string gauge.
And you can also change the string. Yeah, absolutely. The string gauge.
So that's a bit different. And he says, is this also live on Twitch? Yes, it is. We are also on Twitch. Sorry, about what you're saying about adding voices and stuff. Like, I think your approach makes a lot of sense. I mean, like, this is like the eternal problem of arranging anything, right? Is that you want to retain the aspects of the piece which are intentionally consistent with the instrument it was written for, while also making it achieve the same effect on the guitar, which might make changing things. Like, I played Carlo's version of the Chaconne last year, and I made a video of it actually, and I really appreciated his addition because he simultaneously, I think, balanced those things really well, where he did a lot of articulations and fingerings and choices of where to slur and not to slur based on violin bowings, the bowings written in the chaconne originally.
Yep.
And kept a lot of the sort of like texture consistent, but he also, chose where to like add arpeggios and where to fill out chords to make the guitar more resonant, to achieve what an instrument that can bow a long melody can do that we can. And that's the thing about the cello suites that I appreciate what you're saying, is that the cello is so rich, like you said. I think if you don't add some notes to beat up the chords, you're going to miss that entirely, because how else can we make the guitar rich? We can't bow a note and add this sort of like super long, beautiful vibrato, but we can fill out the harmony and make the harmonic overtones of the guitar speak that way. So yeah, that's a hard balance, but it sounds like you found a way to achieve it with the tuning and the key. And
interestingly, the tuning allowed for like a lot of the arpeggio figures to not sound like they needed additional notes, because the register was in the middle of the guitar,
right,
rather than D where you're stuck up here. So you have two strings that really aren't being used for much,
right,
whereas just putting it in A and beefing it up in the middle of the instrument, G would sound like this. Just bringing it up that much, now just like there's a beefiness to it. That's the best way that I can put it.
Yeah, what you need when you're playing a piece for cello originally.
Yeah, and it allowed a lot of the chord voicings work really, really well, to where you can sustain those voices, and do more than just imply the voices in the interpretation.
Yeah,
and which allows you not to be so heavy-handed with adding in basses and maybe additional voices.
Yeah.
Because those voices are happening in a register of the guitar that is already full. We're already able to separate the voices through, fingering choices both in the right and left hand. And then there's really nothing else that you need at that point.
And also keeping things more in the mid-range of the guitar is so useful, because we, I feel like I'm constantly fighting when I'm high up on in the register of the guitar to find a color that I like.
Right.
And when you're a little bit lower, you have so many color options. Mm-hmm. And you have so many more options for doing like things like cross-string slurs or trills or things like that. And so it just, I don't know. I just really like being able to choose whether I play an open string or a closed string, especially for a melodic section, any kind of melody. And when you're sort of forced to do things in certain fingerings because you're high or low on the register, it's kind of a shame. Necessary sometimes, but yeah.
Absolutely. So then, it's really interesting because during doing that transcription, I started the first half of the suite is in D with a D tuning, and then the second half of the suite became really cumbersome trying to use that D tuning. So I actually went back up to just an E. The Sarabande, the rest of it is just in standard tuning.
But it's still in D. It's still the same key. It's just
right. It's still an A, and then but the interesting thing though is that like the music sort of supports that, because I think there's only one instance of a fifth below the open G, like a low C.
Yeah.
In the cello part from the Sarabande on. And that's in the first minuet in the second half, where it does like an octave jump down to the open C string on the cello, and I'm like, am I going to really keep this in D just to grab that one note, or am I just going to play it up an octave? And so I just played it up an octave, and what I did is I forget which one is which at this point now, but one of the Ds, because we're in A now, one of the Ds is an open string, the other D is a closed string because it's a change in voicing. So that's an example of using what the guitar can do well, which is the separation of different voices, and we can play like the same note in two different voices without needing to jump the octave or something like that. And so it was just an interesting solution to that. But other than that, I didn't need the low D in any of the other movements.
Nice. That's awesome. Do you want to play any of it, or do you want to show some examples from the CD, or just play through? I
can play a little bit of it.
Some excerpts or something.
Why don't we play? We could do the prelude. Everybody knows the prelude.
Nice. Yeah, let's do the prelude. I'm going to turn my mic and video off here, and let's hear this prelude.
All right. Get my fancy page turner going.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, there's some cool options with open strings there too.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, like playing what it would be like it lose a little bit something when we're here. Yet just I think more option for thicker, richer melody options.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only awkward thing is it looks like the F sharp bass note makes it a little bit hard in that last section.
This thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the low E. So that's the
thing the low E, sorry, yeah,
you lose the fifth, right?
Yeah.
You either get the fourth or the fifth, and that then just made me research an extended range guitar.
Right, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, and so I do miss the sonority of having like the E ring while you're in that whole dominant section in the second half of it.
Yeah.
Because it's now but then at the same time, the cello doesn't do that. So you add it there for a little bit of support, then you leave it while you go into whatever arpeggio you're going in. So
for sure. Yeah, it's a question of, it's pros and cons always. I mean, I did a Scarlatti sonata that was in E minor, but Carlo was like, why don't you tune down to D? Just for various reasons. There were sometimes a low D you wanted in a bass melody, and it's kind of a weird Scarlatti sonata number 77. But it made it slightly more awkward, but it made the resonance better in general. And so then it's like, well, do you kind of just like put up with some more awkward left-hand stuff?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That was the sort of the theme of that one is like, okay, and that's what ultimately led me not to like. I didn't need the low D. It wasn't enhancing anything in the second half of the piece.
Yeah.
So then it's just and it's nice because the retuning falls at a point in the piece where there is a little bit of relaxation because you're going from the Corantin to the Sarabande.
Mm-hmm.
So from a performance of the full suite, it's not. I don't feel that it interrupts the flow of it.
Also important, yeah, that you don't sort of feel like you have to tune at a critical moment,
right?
Of tension or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. Well, I'm gonna look forward to listening to the whole suite in this tuning,
right.
And key. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think we've talked about the album for a bit now, but I also wanted to ask, because we alluded to it at the beginning, and my brain was already buzzing with things to talk about with it. The Twitch thing, and something that you said at the beginning kind of it reminded me of a lot of my own experience recently, is like you did it to have something, especially during the pandemic, that was sort of, well, it's not what you started, right, but something where it was it can be a deadline or something to look forward to. You use the word look forward to, right? And I've been trying to do that lately too, is like, of course you can have projects, but like it's hard once you become a professional after school to sort of like, you need things that are not just a deadline for yourself, but something that you look forward to sharing or doing that gives you joy, whether it's like going to result in a paycheck or not,
right.
Musically, otherwise it's not going to happen. Like there's no without school, it's kind of, you need something to keep you pushing you forward. And so how has that experience been with using Twitch in that way, and what other ways do you do that for yourself?
So Twitch was kind of a culmination of a self-discovery phase that I had sort of in the mid 2010s. So right after college, a violinist who I had worked with in college and I put together a duo. And we like immediately from college we had this duo, and the duo was actually doing was fairly substantial in the performances and sort of keeping me busy. So I never had that post college lull where like you're trying to figure yourself out in that sense.
Yeah.
So I had this duo. It was going great. We were playing an all tango program. So I mean, we had the history of the tango in there. We had the Suite Buenos Aires in there. We had two pieces written for us, one by Thomas Schuttenhelm and one by the late composer Frank Wallace. We had Terry Riley, Cantos Desiertos. There we go.
Yeah.
And it was a big, beefy program. It was super fun to play. And just my violinist Sarah Larson and I, we had a really good musical relationship. So that was fulfilling me musically, and at that time I was very busy teaching. I still am busy teaching, but that was really great. Then ultimately, we decided to take a little bit of a break, and then I sort of jumped into another ensemble project, which took me, which sort of kept me occupied for a few years. But right around the end of 2014 and to 2015, I started to be more serious about to bring back up solo music, and I had always done like these little solo concerts here and there, but I started doing it more so. But over the course of those few years, there were a lot of things that I was dissatisfied with, sort of in my playing or sort of how the concerts went and that kind of thing. And that sort of culminated in me making a few changes to how I functioned professionally, not in terms of the concerts, but in terms of all of the back end that you're never taught about in school.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other big can of worms. Promotion side, how to book a concert and all that kind of stuff. So I made some changes in that aspect of my professional life, which made certain positive changes in terms of how I felt about my concerts, but then there was still something missing. And one of the things that I remember being told this when I was in school, but you never experience this until you're in the thick of it, right? Is that now that you are a professional going out and doing all this stuff, and this is your livelihood, around this time period, I was playing in doing lots of pit work, doing musicals and things like that, which, when you're committed to a musical, lots of high school musicals in regional theater, you're committed to that for, between a week and upwards of maybe 6 or 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
While a show is running, if you're in a regional theater. And while that's great, it also means that you really can't focus on or take on other work because of it, right?
Yeah, you can't use your energy on your own projects or your own goals.
And so combine teaching with other freelance things, with doing pit work. I had to make certain changes in my life, which I had done. But then one of the things that I had realized is that for the past 5-6 years, I wasn't practicing for the betterment of myself. I was practicing for the next gig that I had.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it was arranging a piece for a wedding, whether it was learning a book in a week so that way I could play the musical, whether it was background music here, whether it was playing in, I did a lot of, for like 2 years, I was playing almost every weekend in a bar band.
Yeah.
Like we were playing, top 40 and rock hits and things like that. And so you're just getting going for the next gig. It was that constant grind of that. And so, the classical guitar and a solo concert doesn't work in that way. Like
no, you kind of need a vision and a direction,
right.
It's sort of from a different genre. Although actually, I'm
Right.
just sort of observing. Metal X Music and Deborah Eastring are having a nice conversation about how neither of them are classical guitarists, but a lot of these topics relate outside of classical guitar. And I think what you're talking about is kind of universal for creative people in the sense that like I was listening to, again, to reference one of my more favorite bands, the guitarist from Periphery, Misha Mansour.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how like once a lot of them in the band got to the point where they could make their income outside of putting out the music, it became a lot more fun and a lot more healthy to make the next albums,
Right.
because they weren't they had like, pedals or signature guitars or teaching or other things that kind of brought in income. And then they didn't feel like they had to they made their own record label as a result, and they didn't feel they had to meet a deadline or someone else's expectations about how the album should sell, what it should do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of understand what you mean, like this kind of problem of, are you just practicing for the next thing that's an obligation to get your paycheck, which is important and you have to be able to do, but is it that, or is it you're doing something that's you're going to move you in a direction you want to go artistically? So that's
Absolutely.
a hard thing to make happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been really lucky that my teaching has always been a source of sustainable income for me.
Yeah.
Whether it was working for a music school or ultimately going out and just deciding to do it all on my own because I have to be in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that ultimately led me to Twitch, because the original idea behind my channel was, this is the accountability that I wanted at that moment in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny because the channel started. I remember I was watching some YouTube video about how someone who was in the Marines or something, like they were trained to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and get their day going immediately, right? And I was like, yeah, because again, the other part of me is that I'm a parent, and during this was during while my daughter was in. All of this stuff happened before my daughter went to school. And so I was very much a stay-at-home dad during the mornings, which worked for me and what I do for a living because I teach at night, right?
Yeah.
And so now that my daughter was going into kindergarten and everything, you want to come and say hi? Is that it? Yes. This is my daughter. This is Maddie.
Hi. We're talking about you.
Oh,
Are you confused? We're over there and we're over here. There's lots of windows of us. Yeah, I know.
why do you need to do that?
Why? Just so that way I can see people talking on chat and on Twitch.
Exactly.
So you're doing a Twitch thingy?
Twitch. I'm all over the internet right now.
Yeah, 4 places. Wait, 3 places.
So basically, you're the one that is basically, so you're basically on stream?
Well, yeah,
So
sure.
you're streaming?
Yep.
Ooh, you're streaming teaching?
No, I'm not teaching.
Well,
an
we're all
interview.
learning something here, Nick.
Wait,
All
is
right.
he the interview guy?
That is the interview guy, yes.
What does he even do?
He asks me questions and I answer them.
I also play guitar, Nick.
He also does play guitar. He's a guitar player. I'll show you videos after, okay?
Guitar player.
All right. All right. Go back to see mommy in the kitchen, okay?
No, I told her to go upstairs.
Oh, then you have to go upstairs.
Guitar.
Wow.
All right. So what was I talking about? So yeah. So being a parent, and I remember watching a video of Bill Cannon guys were talking about how his practice life changed when he finally had a kid, and sort of balancing parent life and practice life and all that stuff. And it's so true. But what wound up happening is that I had a friend who had been live streaming his practices on like YouTube and Twitch simultaneously. And this was in 2017, and he didn't keep up with it in the way that I ultimately did, because at the time there was really no community for it. But I remember watching, like, I would watch his practice streams, and I would practice what I was doing while watching him and everything, and that gave sort of like the nugget of inspiration. I remember doing a few live streams on Facebook Live, while I was learning a piece. I remember I did a whole YouTube blog series in 2018 on me learning the Saudade Number 3 by Roland Dion's.
Cool.
And every day I did an update progress video for a month straight. And then I did a live stream performance and just Q&A on that. And these were sort of all experiments that I did that ultimately led to me doing it on Twitch. And so I started waking up at like literally 5:30 in the morning. I would turn on, hit go live, and start practicing at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I would practice for probably upwards of 6 or 7 hours.
Wow.
Now, practicing 7 hours on Twitch is not practicing 7 hours in your own
Yeah, because you're
apartment.
interacting with people.
Because there's lots of interaction, and I get sidetracked a lot. There's a reason why there's a derail command in my chat on Twitch.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So I mean, and it's amazing conversations, and I get asked all sorts of questions, which is really cool. And it's nice to interact. And so for pretty much the first year of me being on Twitch, there was this very small community of practicing guitarists and another classical guitarist, excuse me. And there was just the four of us for a year, for 2019 into 2020.
Nice.
And then pandemic happened.
Yeah, and then all of us
And
started
so-
live streaming.
All of us are like, what are we going to do? Let me live stream on Facebook. Let me do it on YouTube. I had already been on Twitch, so I just kept doing what I was doing on Twitch. And I was just a little bit more proactive about letting my Facebook community know what I was doing on Twitch. Because I kind of kept those separate for a while.
Yeah.
For no other reason than being self-conscious, to be completely honest. Like, there's an openness, there's an honesty, the fourth wall is definitely broken when you're live streaming, and there was a realness that I wanted to present in it, where it's like, you guys are watching me prepare music, you guys are watching me learn stuff, you guys are watching me be
in the
frustrated.
practice room. Yeah, the practice
It's like,
room is
this
like
is-
where you're yourself, if anything.
Yeah, the most of yourself. I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
Like, there was no guard up. There was no presentation of my personality that I had to do. It's just me. And you see the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly, depending on how that practice day is going.
Yeah. I've been trying
You know?
to have a similar approach to this. It's obviously not the same amount of vulnerability, the live stream thing, but I try to, like, I don't think I succeed 100% at it, but I try with social media, putting things out there to just as much as possible be myself, because
Yeah. A few days ago, I saw Jason Vio on his Instagram page. He was posting like some little practice videos of him doing stuff, and I was like, I wrote a comment. I'm like, it's really nice to see you present not something I forget what I wrote exactly, but the idea was like, this is you in the practice room, and this is awesome. It's nice to see you fumble over something. It's nice to see your reaction of that. You don't seem like this Superman who can do everything. You seem like just someone who puts in a whole lot of work and attention to what you do, which, any professional guitarist, we know and we see that. But to me, it's more important that he's showing that. on social media.
Yeah, even beyond that, I would just say how you conduct yourself on places like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Like, if you, I don't know, I'm always just a little bit wary when I can tell someone is, like, of course you don't have to give your opinion on everything. Obviously, that's not a good idea with the internet either. But, you know, when someone's only presenting like the best side of themselves at all times, whether that's a performance or they're just holding back their opinion on even a topic that's not that controversial, like not moral or something, but like on like music stuff or whatever. And, you know, it's just, I would rather like piss off a few people and then have a lot of other people see that I'm being genuine on social media, because to me, like, not like, I don't want everyone to like me per se, you know. I want everyone to respect me for like being myself and being I think I'm a kind person, you know, but like I just feel I don't like what social media does to us, where we only show our best moments, we only show the great things that are happening in our lives, like, oh, this great thing happened. Because what happens is, like, I go on Facebook and I feel like all I see is a bunch of my friends bragging about their accomplishments, which I also do on there. And then it kind of just feels like this echo chamber of like only the good things happening to other people, and then you're like, what's wrong with me? Because I have all this like bad stuff happening.
Well, I mean, a great comparison is like, you know, judging your self-worth or your abilities as a guitar player on a recording, right? The recording is the best part of what that performer is trying to do. It's their, at that moment, at that point in time, that's an encapsulation of the perfect performance.
Yeah, and that's part of the art of recording, right? I'm learning as I'm learning to edit and do the production part of it. Oh my gosh, your cat.
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna move my video so we can see. That's part of the art. Like, that's an extra step in the art form, is like editing things so that it's the perfect representation of what you think the piece should be. But I think everyone has to be aware that that's kind of a farce, you know. And like,
I think so too. I think for those of us who experience it and sort of have a more intimate understanding of it, absolutely. I think that from a general audience perspective, I don't necessarily think they realize that to the degree of it.
No, but they should. And like, also,
they should, absolutely.
With students, I have to say so many times with new students, or even like not new students who've been with other teachers, but nobody's ever sat them down and explained that like what you hear on recordings is not anywhere close to what you should expect from yourself, you know?
Right.
And
then and then I watch like the GFA videos and all that stuff, and you watch these guys in competition that are just seemingly like note perfect to a certain extent. No buzzes, no squeaks that you can really hear, and you know, they're amazing players, but at the same time, it's like there's a preparation that they're doing, that if you're going to go that route, that's what you do. There's
a preparation they're doing, and there's also the thing of like which videos get published, you know.
This is also true. I'm gonna choose and it goes back to how you present yourself. So there's a genuineness that I feel that is at the heart of my stream, right? Where it's like, I'm not trying to you're seeing me work on stuff, and it's a more of a community aspect and a more of a sort of it's a place where people can see what goes into playing at the level that I play at having a career at the
in
level
a concert,
that I have. And
or on CD.
A lot of times, like especially when I'm doing like song request streams and things like that, or I play something, I have to temper the reaction that I may have versus how people in chat perceived it, right? So, whenever someone enjoys a performance of mine, I am always thrilled that they enjoy it. I am never upset by it. But it's, I always have to explain when, like, maybe I don't have a reaction that they expect from a performance. It's like, that's now the working musician of me who's now troubleshooting what happened and how to make it better the next time. And that has no bearing on whether or not you should or should not enjoy my performance.
One time Toma Vilito, when I was taking Skype lessons with him for a year, he told me in one lesson that he's only been happy with his playing 3 times, I think he said, in his life. I mean, it might have been an exaggeration, but that's not. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, a lot of us, we can think back, maybe we have a handful of performances we can think of where we're like, I was genuinely happy with how I performed,
absolutely.
you know?
Well, it's like where everything seemed to go right, and you don't feel like that there's something that soured the overall performance.
And when
for
he
you.
won he said when he won the GFA that he thought it wasn't great, you know?
Yeah.
But
I could totally believe that.
I mean, he's quite a perfectionist, but still, I've had the same feeling sometimes where like people are overjoyed, and I'm like, that was pretty bad. You know.
Yeah, and I think that often paralyzes a lot of students and up and coming players because they see these videos, they see all of these people, they see the quality of the playing, whether it's a live video that's a really well done video, or whether it's a video that has been produced and has professional audio and video qualities to it,
editing,
and you don't have an understanding of how to view yourself in that world.
Yeah, you're also not necessarily outside of your brain, so you don't see how other people see the good things about your playing that you might not focus on.
Absolutely.
So
but it just sort of paralyzes you from wanting to take those risks in a certain sense, because you're trying to achieve a level that perhaps isn't a realistic goalpost.
yeah, and you also can't. Not everyone can be that player. Not everyone should be. I mean, half the players I really love to listen to aren't even the ones who are necessarily playing the most. It's a cliche thing to say, but a lot of the guitarists I enjoy listening to are not the ones who are necessarily the most accurate all the time. There are GFA winners. Of course, there are many, many, many amazing guitarists who I prefer to many of the GFA winners. But if you just look at GFA winners as a category, there are GFA winners whose performances, when you watch the live streams from the past, 6 or 7 years, however long they've been live streaming it, who make more errors than other ones, who I enjoy more than the other ones.
Absolutely.
So, it's really hard to put a metric on these things, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so to me, live streaming has been really positive in that sense. It's almost therapeutic at times.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, so I've been doing it, like I said, I did it for about 15 months before the pandemic hit, really. And obviously there are more people doing it now, and for kind of the foreseeable future, because of where we're at throughout the world. But what's been really awesome is that there's an amazing community of classical guitarists that have made their way to Twitch.
Yeah.
And whether they're doing just practice streams, or whether they play on stream, or a little bit of both, or this, that, and the other thing, it's just nice to see that supportive community just be there the whole time, and just everyone really, there are so many guitarists that I make commands. So for those who don't know Twitch much, you have these bots that will, with a command, do type a thing in chat, right? And so I have several commands that sort of just point everybody to different classical guitar streamers, and there's so many of them that I need 3 different commands to get all the guitarists in.
Wow. Because
I run out of characters for the command. So it's really great, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to want to do it. I certainly am not saying that it's like a change to things, but there's an interaction aspect of it, which is really at the heart of social media. What's great about it is that you have that ability, if you choose, to be more real about yourself, to break down sort of the barrier between you as the artist and your audience, and you can interact with them, which is, I think, the really successful people in social media, that's what winds up happening. There's an interactiveness that people get.
That's also as hard as it is for us, because now we have to be everything: manager, promotion person, everything. That's also the advantage of the current business model, is that you have direct access to your market, which is overwhelming and difficult. But I think also, the upside that people don't talk about when they complain about the current music industry is that now we have the chance to do unique and interesting things and immediately reach people. In the past, there was a lot of gates in the way, like sort of barriers of like, you need to be with a label, you need an, agent, all these kind of things, which are now sort of obsolete. I feel like I keep mentioning him, but this is something Misha Mansour was also talking about, is that they were one of the first bands to sort of get on the self-producing side of things, and their deal with Sumerian Records was exactly what they wanted because they had that ability, and that's becoming more and more the case now, he was saying, which I think is true, that people have the technology and the ability to self-produce or hire someone who they know for a decent price to self-produce, and then they go to the label and they say, what are you, like, we can offer you an album, which was the opposite in the past. So yeah, that's the thing with something like Twitch too, is that you have this immediate access to all these people, which is great, but it's also kind of overwhelming. I mean, how do you balance that with like creating the stuff itself? I guess you do it simultaneously.
And I by no means call myself a social media guru. There are people that are way better at it than I, but I see the potential. But it's one of those things where it's, as you said, it's really overwhelming. There's a lot of things that go on with it, and you have to budget out your time with it. You have to make sure that you get everything that you need to get done, and you don't go all in on necessarily a single thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is it's becoming extremely, you have to be versatile, and you have to have a lot of streams of things to see what's working and what isn't, and pivot that way.
Yeah.
And especially since music doesn't sell anymore. I mean, we were talking about this before the show, about Spotify and everything. Selling music as a product that people pay for is very hard now, and it's only getting harder, and that's probably not going to change with the way the internet works.
No, and I think even then, like, if you go before the whole Napster thing, which started to change the music industry, whether they wanted it to or not.
Yeah.
The bands weren't real. The bands were selling more, but they weren't making much more.
Because they relied on the label. That's the thing. The weird thing is they relied on the label to get them the studio time to produce the record and the producer. Now you can do that yourself in your bedroom and get great results.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to pay for the product. So it's kind of a weird trade-off,
Yeah, and then also, you've got to promote your product, or you have to go out. It's playing all those different roles that having a label back you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah. I feel incredibly lucky being a classical artist, classical guitarist and musician, classically trained, because I feel like, as you said before, teaching is this, and I'm lucky that I enjoy it too, but teaching is a reliable source of income, where like if online stuff or giving concerts is kind of dry at the moment, I can always kind of rely on that, and I enjoy it, and I have an amazing relationship with my students, and I'm very lucky that I have that. But I don't know how other musicians do it. I mean, you have to be so on your toes, because like everything's changing so fast, and it's hard. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a difficult thing, but I think the direct access to the market and the versatility aspect of having different streams of what you do is absolutely key.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, it's awesome that Twitch became something of that for you. How did you find out about it? Like,
so I found out about it because my friend was I would see him on YouTube,
right?
And then, I think when he was on Facebook, he would talk about Twitch, and he was doing sort of the simul broadcast thing.
Right. Oh, you said it. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
And so I wound up, to be able to chat with him, I made an account. That's why I'm Guitarshredda on there and not my name, because I'm like, I'm not gonna go on here to stream. I just want to say hi to my friend. And so, Guitarshredda. The story behind that username is that was my username in high school.
Nice.
And so, for those who remember AOL Instant Messenger, that was my Instant Messenger name.
Awesome.
And that was my name on all of the internet forums that I was on. It was Guitarshredda. No numbers. The really cool thing is that there were no numbers or weird characters to replace any letters because somebody else had it. Whenever I signed up, that was always available. So there was something prideful about that for me, where it's like, I'm the originator, I'm the OG in a certain way. But
awesome.
So I've known him since high school. We went to the Juilliard pre-college together. We studied with Antigone together, and so, when I made the username and I wrote something in chat, he's like, "Are you who I think you are? Because I know that username." I'm like, "I'm exactly who you think I am."
Nice.
And so that's how I got started on Twitch. It was just I had that because I had a
friend who did it.
an account, and I had a friend who was on there.
Cool.
And I think because I did it on Twitch and I wasn't doing it on my Facebook account, there was a little bit of ease in doing it because I knew that nobody who I knew professionally or whatever would even be able to find me doing this.
So you felt,
as I figure out who I was as like a streamer and practicing.
Yeah.
So now I feel way more comfortable in my shoes doing this. It doesn't feel awkward for me while playing. You know, even when I do like a performance, I've done some concerts on Twitch, like in a concert format, but it's not the same as like you're playing a concert, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like that because I had all of that time ahead of time, that doing a live stream concert works better for me in that sense because I understand the medium and I'm a little bit more at home with it.
It's a different.
And then also
yeah.
I've invested in an audio setup. I mean, you can't see this, but there's like a light here. There are 2 lights there. I have a camera here. There's a cat cam here for my cats.
Yeah.
That's what this whole thing is, you know.
Yeah.
So I've invested in a setup where like the video and the visuals and the audio will sound relatively decent as well. So,
Yeah. I've been investing in that stuff for a little while, and I'm not even that far into it, and it's a lot to plan exactly how you set things up, especially with online lessons now and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't quite had the same luxury with being somewhere where I knew people wouldn't necessarily find me from professional circles because I started live streaming on Facebook and YouTube in front of all of my colleagues. But I was also just kind of, I had gotten to this point with my, you know, like presenting myself professionally where I was like, I don't really care if people don't like what I do. You know, I've been in the guitar community long enough that I'm like, it doesn't really matter. You know,
it was more so of I was doing this weird experiment,
right?
And
yeah,
I knew that I was going to be on for like hours upon hours,
right? Like something weird will happen at some point.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know. I mean, if anybody goes through onto my on my Twitch page, we have things on Twitch called clips.
Yeah.
There are clips from like over a year ago. And you could see like sort of, you know, the janky setup that I had.
Yeah.
Like it has evolved, and even this still, I mean, I have my daughter's stuffed animal down there.
Yeah, I have all sorts of
yeah.
you know, really derpy moments on the stream on YouTube forever now. It's like, it's the internet, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's nothing, you know,
whatever.
to be embarrassed about. It's just growing pains.
Yeah, if someone is going to judge you for something like that, it's like, well, good luck not being judged for that, you know. It's the same how I feel with uploading my playing. I got to the point where I was like, if someone's going to watch one video of me from some point and judge my playing forever based on that video, I don't really have an interest in trying to win them over anyways, because at some point I'm going to disappoint them, you know.
Right. And, I mean, at that point, you're not... I mean, if someone's basing you on just that single video, they've already made up their mind.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no point. And, like, I change my mind all the time. Like, I watch a video of someone performing, I'm like, oh, I don't like what they did there. And then I watch another video later, I'm like, oh, that was amazing, you know? So...
Yeah, when in college, I remember our teacher would have us listen to recordings in studio class.
Yeah.
And he was always a proponent of, you know, don't worry about whether you like it or not. Worry about, you know, for lack of a better word, the validity of what they're choosing to do. They're allowed to do something that you don't like, but does that mean that it's not a good choice? Or does that negate their choice?
Yeah.
You know? They might have a different perspective of the piece. So this thing that you don't like, how does that affect the whole piece? And does it work in favor of what they're trying to express, or does it work against them?
Yeah, for sure.
So it was a very new, you know, I feel like through that time in college, I got to a point where, you know, I'm able to separate the emotional like and dislike versus the analytical service of what I understand about the piece.
Yeah.
And so it becomes an interesting experience when you're working on music and you're trying to figure out how you want to do something, when it's like, oh, I really like doing this, but it completely disrupts the flow of how I'm perceiving this piece. And so maybe I shouldn't do this, or I want to play something this way, But to play it this way, I need to have these factors in place. Are they already in place? Do I agree with those factors? Or do I have to change my perspective on that decision?
Yeah, it's hard. It's always a balance.
Yep.
Ganja Baby says, so I need to ask, just because I follow many music channels or other channels, you guys are local from O-Town, right? I don't know what O-Town is. I'm in Utrecht, the Netherlands. And
I'm from Connecticut.
Okay.
Where am I? I'm in about 20 minutes outside of Hartford, outside the capital.
I'm not sure what O-Town is. But I don't think either of us are there, so...
O-Town I know as like Orlando, Florida, but that's because that's where all the boy bands were in the late 90s.
Nice.
And there was a boy band called O-Town because they came from Orlando.
Nice.
So there's my knowledge of what O-Town means.
Awesome. Super cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's so refreshing to see someone like you on Twitch and all over the internet doing different things and doing new things.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's super cool. I think we're really lucky as guitarists. Like our community is very supportive and very positive overall. Not entirely,
Absolutely.
of course.
I remember someone was asking me in chat once about this was a Twitter like conversation that I had with another streamer. They were a classical pianist, and they were talking about how they felt like they felt sort of reinvigorated because after leaving conservatory, you don't have a teacher sitting there judging you and like the cutthroat experience within the other students. And I'm like, I understand that's a thing that a lot of people in music schools experience, which is unfortunate, and it makes them not want to do music afterwards. But I feel like in the guitar community, no matter where they are, it's always a supportive community. It's always a community where your colleagues in school and your colleagues when you're in the professional world are there to be supportive and to help each other and not sort of tear each other down.
Yeah.
It's always nice.
I mean, I would say it depends a little bit where you are. I mean, my experience in Europe has been very positive in many ways. But I think, unfortunately, when you have a place where there are more people trying to make it and more talent, there can be more competition and more cutthroat sort of behavior. However, it's still far less than most instruments. And
absolutely,
I think the bigger point to make, which I don't want to sort of pronounce people's destiny, but I think the people who treat it as competitive and who don't support and collaborate will not last very long, no matter how good they are playing the instrument. Right. That's the comforting thing, as harsh as that might sound, it's nice to know that if you're a decent person and you know how to make a good product, but also be a good collaborator and support others, that goes a long way. Whereas I would just urge people not to try to get out of the competitive mindset as much as possible, because it doesn't build long term into a good relationship with your colleagues who you depend on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the rough truth. Is not rough, but that's just the reality. Is we depend on the other people in our community because it's a small one.
Absolutely.
So don't be a dick.
Yeah. Good. That's just in general a good way to live life.
Yeah, but especially as a person in a small artistic scene, that's very
absolutely.
Not that I do that perfectly, but I try to approach things with a helpful and collaborative attitude rather than a competitive one.
Yeah.
And also at the end of the day, like, who really cares who's quote unquote better at one thing or another? It's I don't know. I think people want to hear good music and sort of we of course we all want to be as good as we can at the art form, and that's where that comes from, I guess. But like, does that really make you give a better concert worrying about that all the time? I don't know. Right. Depends. Yeah. Oh, Steven Dentom says, "Hey guys, hey Steven, nice to see you."
Hey.
I'm coming in when Mike says, "Don't be a dick." Hello. Yes, we got there, Steven. We got there eventually.
There we go.
Everything boils down to that. But speaking of trying to be better at the art form, do you have any things you want to talk about what you're working on yourself technically, or?
Yeah. So, right now, one of the things from a technical perspective that I've been working on is, I think almost every guitarist works on this at one point or another, is my tremolo technique, and just working on tremolo. And so I've always been relatively complacent with my tremolo. It's always been even. It's always been relatively accurate and not really having an issue with the mechanics of it. But then, like, you listen to someone like, David Russell has been a tremolo influence for me over the past few months.
Yeah.
Just the control over dynamics within the tremolo, and then also making it less machine gunny has been a quest of mine.
Yeah.
In working on things. So that's kind of been a thing that I've been working on from a technique perspective that I've been doing relatively recently.
And how are you doing that?
So, what I remember in college, like a lot of my practice, and a lot of the ways that we were encouraged to practice would be to use more of a staccato articulation, right? To sort of do this, right? And go ahead.
Sorry, Metal X Music is talking about tremolo picking, I guess because he's an electric guitarist. Can you give a really brief summary on what tremolo is in classical
So
guitar?
tremolo on the classical guitar is sort of a little bit of one of our few magic tricks that we have to make people think that we can make a long, sustaining melody line and crescendo and decrescendo on the guitar. So what we do is we play a bass line with the thumb, and then between index, middle, and ring, or index, middle, ring, I did it backwards. We go through A, M, I, A for ring finger, M for middle finger, I for index. And between that arpeggio pattern, we get something that sounds like this. So we get this idea of a sustained melody.
Mm-hmm. We also get a nice counterpoint between the bass and the upper voice. So
yeah, and every time that I play a tremolo for somebody, they always say the same thing, which is it sounds like it's two guitars.
Yeah, it's two melodies, right? And that's the cool thing too, is you're always trying to find out which one is the actual melody.
Exactly. And so for me, it always feels like I listen to the articulation, and it always feels like the articulation is a little, for lack of a better word, tight between the notes. And so what I've been doing is, instead of doing it really slow and really fast, I've been sort of at a middle ground, really just trying to get the tremolo to be even and not rush through the tremolo, where now it becomes lopsided. And then also not over prepare the fingers on the string.
Yeah. Do you do dotted rhythms with tremolo or no?
I have, like, where I'll do, or
yeah, that's the easier one, but I always find the other one harder.
Yeah,
I find the other. Yeah, that's the one I find hard.
Yeah, I mean, dotted rhythms are really, really great. I use dotted rhythms all the time, and then in scales, I have sort of these other rhythmical variations for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just been sort of, I think for me the problem is, for me, what I've sort of dissected is that that middle speed, right? Where it's one of those things where it's just fast enough to start sounding like a tremolo, but slow enough to where you hear the individual rhythms of the notes. And
also,
so go ahead.
Sorry, that middle speed that you're talking about is so important, because if you want to do rubato, if you want to push and pull the phrasing, you need that. And I think a lot of players, when they do tremolo well fast, they just kind of do it all fast, and then when it starts they try to do like a ritardando or something, then it starts to get uneven, and that's,
Yeah. And that was sort of the thing, is that, I'm like, I want to be able to rhythmically control the tremolo way more than I already had.
Yeah.
And that's been what I've been working on. So, that's Una Limosna for those who don't know. And I typically play it at around 160, and so I've been working at 120, just slowly going through it.
Nice.
Just trying to get even articulation. It's a work in progress, as all things are, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of those things. So those have been like sort of the threads that I've been following through when I practice that piece on stream. Yeah.
Cool. Metal X Music says, give us an example of sloppy versus controlled tremolo. I mean, I guess for me, sloppy tremolo is like when it's uneven, right? And you get...
Yeah, so like an uneven, it'll be like... Or usually it's this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Usually that kind of thing. Whereas an even tremolo or controlled tremolo, also a sloppy tremolo would be the thumb not hitting the right bass notes, or when you're on an inside string hitting a higher string. That would be other things of that. So I can do the inside string really easy. So if you're here, so no, where would be a better passage? So like that thing. There are the notes. So they're control. I'm forgetting the melodies, but then one that isn't that would be me hitting like the open string by accident or that kind of thing.
Or hitting the bass string that's resonating with the top of your thumbnail, so it goes.
Yeah, doing like getting that sound.
Exactly.
And so the controlled tremolo is just where those things aren't there. But I think most importantly, it's not having the gallop, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just da 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 da, and then this might just be my philosophy on it, but to me there needs to be a speed that we don't go under for tremolo.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't sound like the effect that you're trying to get.
Maybe
which
at
is
the very end of a phrase. No.
Right, but I'm just talking about like in general, like if someone wants to learn, let's say, a tremolo piece, but they can't do a PIMA arpeggio or even PIMA tremolo at like.
Wait, you mean PAMI?
PAMI. Sorry, yeah. So
you're not Anavidovich, who does it backwards? Not Anavidovich. She does 3 finger tremolo.
I've practiced it backwards just for the sake of doing that.
My friend from my master's in Vancouver who I studied with, Joel Thompson, who used to be in a duo with me, he did PIMA tremolo for everything.
Oh wow,
which is crazy. Yeah, it worked better for him.
Hey, that's cool. That is so awkward for my hand.
The reason I think it makes sense though to do AMI like normal, like ring, middle, index, because you get the motion of closing your fist.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean it's like it's that thing. You never tap your fingers the other way.
Yeah, I mean I've practiced PIMA arpeggios, so I kind of can, but it's not natural.
No, it's not. It's not a natural motion. It's a practiced motion. Right?
Yeah.
But so.
So wait, you just play it like slower than normal. So like you take a tremolo passage like.
So like,
I used to always play. I'm in drop D. I used to always play Junto a Generalife. Wait. So you just do like.
Yep.
Okay. And just what are you trying to do with your right hand, like?
The right hand, all I'm trying to do is not over-articulate. So I want to hear just as my articulation, right?
Okay.
Rather than
even,
just an even articulation through all the fingers, right? So what I found is that between my A finger and my M finger, the middle finger comes down to the string too early. And so I get a really short note when the A finger plucks.
Yeah.
Right?
So okay. Yeah, so focusing on evenness of sound and the moment that the finger comes there.
Right. And I think of it all through articulation. Volume, tone quality, all that stuff is sort of all there as well. But I'm really focused on... So if I do it faster... So there I felt like there were a few repetitions where I felt the A finger and the M finger were a little tight in working, right?
Okay.
Where maybe I felt tension in the underside of my hand when I used my A finger, or maybe I felt my middle finger want to move to the string too early, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that all stems from years of practicing tremolo.
With planting.
Yeah. Just super staccato practice.
Which is great if you want to get to the string fast again, but not great if you want evenness.
Right. And so that's why, and I never had to worry about, for myself, the mechanics of making the tremolo work.
For speed or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even when I was in high school. I mean, I am by no means a technical wonder on the guitar at all, but I remember we were doing an ensemble piece. It was some tango piece that Antigone had us doing, and like this thing had a tremolo in it, and like I was kind of like the little guitarist that could in that group. Like we had two really amazing guitarists, and then there was me that just sort of was like, for whatever reason he can do things, but it's all over the place sort of thing. And she's like, well, I can reassign this tremolo to someone else, but why don't you try it first, see if you can do it. And I did it, and she looks at me, she's like, all right, I'll give you the tremolo. it just like worked. She's like,
Yeah.
huh, okay. So I never really had that issue where like I struggled to try and get tremolo. My tremolo was always even. I never really had an issue of over accentuating a note or balance issues with it. And so, you know, now because I'm asking more of myself as a player, where I've always been sort of relatively unhappy with, for instance, my control of rubato over it, and all that kind of stuff. I just now that I have the time, and now that I'm sort of in a place where I can say, yes, I can focus on it, sort of thing. Like that's a lot that has to do with it. Like when you're in school and stuff like that, you kind of feel a need to rush to get things accomplished because there are deadlines like we were talking about earlier. But now that I don't have those necessary deadlines, I can work on a piece and I can explore the piece or explore the technique in the way which I choose to do it, rather than having to hit a jury deadline or play this piece in 2 months because that's what you need in that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So,
I think like the rubato thing with tremolo is big.
I think that's the hardest part about it.
Yeah, because speed doesn't really. It's not the point, you know.
No, absolutely not.
Of the technique.
It's maintaining the tremolo sound, so that way when you do slow down, it doesn't all of a sudden sound like four really plucked notes.
Yeah, it's the whole gradual slowdown.
Right.
That's hard.
And it's that you still hear the idea of those repeated notes as just a melody rather than three notes that are played fast in succession.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other favorite exercises?
Let's see.
If you don't have one, it's okay. We can pivot to something
I'm
else.
trying to think.
I already got my guitar out. I'm ready to learn.
There you go. The big thing that I've been doing, I've been compiling what I call my slur workout of doom. That's what I call it for all my students.
Slurs are a must.
Slurs are, yeah. And so pretty much just going through all these combinations of stuff and
What do you do?
Just different combinations.
Okay, so you do like
kind of thing.
only one direction at first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have it written down somewhere of all my combinations. Let me
Okay.
find it.
Do you do like this pumping nylon one?
Is that up and down?
So yeah, you do like ascending, like ascending and descending, and then you do descending and ascending. So
I have done that one. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one
The,
because you have to play. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a whole literally I just pulled up a list of all of these different things. So I have a whole
Do you do
series
like
of them
slurs
that
with
I'll put
open strings?
in. I do. I don't do that.
Oh,
I don't do that.
This
but
is
I've
a good
done,
one too, where you do.
Yeah.
And you have to hammer onto the open string after you do a pull off.
Oh wow. So wait, you're doing this. What are you doing? Hold on.
Like open
Gotta see
third
that.
string,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
slur 4-1 on the fourth string, and then hammer onto the third string.
Like
Yeah,
that?
like that. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, that's an extreme
Yeah.
one.
That's kind of like in Emergence has all this kind of right, all that kind of stuff, which I am not warmed up to play.
Yeah, but yeah, I see what you mean.
And that sort of, again, one of those things, slurs were never, that's another technique. Like, I never necessarily struggled with slurs. My background, I still play electric guitar, but when I was in high school, one of my bigger guitar heroes of that time period was Joe Satriani, who was like the king of like 3-note slurs and just like doing this kind of thing forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Like
so
the
that
like the Yobet's left hand variation.
pretty much, pretty much, except with way more gain.
Yeah, which makes it easier actually. Since I've been
Makes
playing
it so much easier.
I've been playing electric guitar again to try to have some more fun while playing guitar, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
man, like slurs, it's like you can shred, it's like so much
Yeah.
less force. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wish
well,
I
I
had a
mean-
gain knob on the classical guitar.
Yeah, just let me turn the. I need more gain, everybody, please.
Yeah.
Like just doing that,
Yeah.
And then just in general, I've been working on just left hand tension stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
That's hard to manage.
just sort of the standard things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Fun.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah, slurs are also powerful because once you unlock like cross string slurs and stuff where you like play an open note and then slur a string below, like
Yeah.
the articulation options are kind of endless.
yeah,
And they're also like super necessary for like communicating a musical idea. I mean, half the guitar players who in any genre, whether electric or classical, that you sort of admire, often you admire them because of articulation and how they choose to like what notes they choose to play with the right hand and not, like they sort of
right,
makes them set them apart a little bit. And it's
yeah, absolutely.
it's big. Cool. So tremolo and slurs, those are must do's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Well, we've kept everyone here for like almost 2.5 hours. So
Wow.
is there anything that anyone has to ask or say? Or do you have anything you want to address, Nick, that we haven't gone over yet?
No, we were very thorough. Talked about Twitch, talked about my album.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And people can get the album. Well, they can listen to it on Spotify, but where can they? They can get it at the link in the description.
Yes. So the link in the descriptions is just a whole bunch of different places that I'm on all social medias and everything.
Yeah.
It's streaming on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music. I'm all over the place. Pretty much any streaming service that you have, you'll be able to find my album.
Yeah.
And then obviously my social media links. I'm Nick Cutroneo on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm twitch.tv/Guitarshreda on Twitch.
Guitarshredda. Awesome.
There it is.
Yeah.
And then I have a website, nickcutroneo.com. I have my teaching website, nickcutroneo.guitarstudio.com.
Cool.
And so I've been relatively good, except for this past week, where I release some kind of performance video, either from my archives or something that is relatively recent, on YouTube every week. So that goes live every Thursday.
Nice.
This week was Thanksgiving, so I didn't release anything. And then, I'm trying to get better at Instagram, trying to get better at Twitter, but I don't feel like I have anything interesting to say on Twitter.
Yeah, I've never been on Twitter, and I don't really want to be. I feel like it would just make me mad.
Yeah, I just
To be honest.
Twitter is a great place to know when I do things. Same thing with my Facebook page.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'm doing things.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Deborah Eastring is saying, can at Mr. Mibson play us something, or did I miss that? I'm the host, so I really shouldn't play because it would be, kind of churlish. But if you go to my YouTube channel, just search Michael Ibsen guitar, it will come up. Michael, Michael, Ibsen, like in Mr. Mibson, and you can find videos of me playing. Some edited, some unedited. So if you want to see mistakes, look for the live ones.
There you go.
And do you want to play something, Nick, to close us out, or should we just end it here? What are you thinking?
Let's see. I'm gonna keep it chill, and we'll do the Sarabande from the first cello suite.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna turn off my camera and mic here. Let's hear some more Bach.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Very
Thank you.
nice. Nothing like
Awesome.
a Bach Sarabande to finish things off with this on a sweet
Yeah.
note. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Everybody, thank you everyone for your kind comments. People are saying great interview. Thanks for the stream. This was awesome.
Thanks.
Saw a bunch of new faces in the Twitch chat. I'm fairly new to Twitch, so I have actually Nick to thank for like showing me that Twitch for guitar was a thing.
It is a thing.
Yes. I don't know if I'm going to be doing the same kind of thing with all the like streaming my practice sessions and stuff,
No.
but I am going to be doing this show about once a week with you guys.
Awesome.
So people who want to tune in and hear a new guitarist, or sometimes I interview people who are not guitarists themselves but are related, luthiers, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's very cool.
Steven, who was in the comments, Steven Dindholm is a luthier who I've had on in the past, so that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Ted.
Check back in. I guess I should announce now the upcoming guests. So next on the show is I have Elina Chekan on December 9th. She's a Belarusian guitarist. In America, she's in Milwaukee. I think she's on faculty along with Renee at Milwaukee, or she does something with the university there.
I know she's in their community school.
Yeah. Okay.
She does lots of Suzuki guitar teaching.
Yeah, she does a lot of Suzuki teaching, but I think she may also be in some way faculty at yeah, okay, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
And she's got some really cool stuff to talk about. A composer whose music she's championing from Belarus, who's not so well known, I believe, and
Awesome.
that's on December 9th. So next Wednesday, not this upcoming Wednesday, but the one after. And then December 13th, I have Nico Kauk from Belgium, teaches in Antwerp. And he's a young player, does a lot of contemporary music, teaching at a fairly important school in Belgium, so that'll be cool. And then on December 22nd, I'm going to have the Ottawa Guitar Trio for a Christmas special. So that's just going to be us like drinking eggnog and, doing Christmas themed games. And so actually, if you guys have ideas for like Christmassy things to do on the show, please get at me, tell me, because the Ottawa Guitar Trio is like they're good friends of mine from Ottawa, and they're all like a huge laugh. So like
Awesome.
I want to make that show as silly as possible. I think I'm gonna wear like some Rudolph antlers and stuff. So
There you go.
if you have ideas, tell me. But yeah, Nick, this has been awesome. Thank you for
Thank you.
all your playing, and
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, and the album is amazing. I was enjoying listening to it, getting ready for the show, and I hope that it goes far and wide, especially with this, sort of Tedesco, one of the only recordings out there with the coda.
I've seen some YouTube videos of people playing it, but I have yet to see a recording with that coda in it. So
Cool.
I'm
Nice.
not going to say that I'm the first, but I'm definitely not one of the last.
Yeah, you're trailblazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope the CD goes far and wide, and
Thank you.
everyone share it with your family and friends. It's good.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll see you on Twitch and around.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. I stream on Twitch Tuesday through Thursday,
Nice.
Saturday, and Sunday. So tonight, actually, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we're doing Song Request Sundays. So that's always a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
If I'm up late enough, maybe I can pop in. And
We
give
get a
requests.
lot of people over in the EU, and they're like, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, why are you still here? Go to bed.
Yeah. No, I probably won't be there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Cool. Awesome. Well, it's been a blast, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And
All right,
I will
thanks.
see you all on the 9th with Elina.
Very cool.
So, ciao everyone.